going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Cool thing, dude.
In the quiet skies over the east coast of the United States, something extraordinary was happening, a series of events that would challenge the very boundaries of known aviation and stir deep questions within the military community. From the summer of 2014 through March 2015, U.S. Navy pilots conducting routine training missions began encountering mysterious objects that seemed to defy the laws of physics. These objects, described as being capable of hypersonic speeds and bizarre flight patterns, became a nearly daily occurrence, leading to growing concern and a sense of unease among those who witnessed them. Lieutenant Ryan Graves, an experienced FA-18 Super Hornet pilot with a decade of service in the Navy, was among the first to report these strange encounters. His accounts, submitted to both the Pentagon and Congress, detailed objects that appeared to move with no visible engine, no exhaust plumes, and yet managed to stay airborne for hours, something that seemed impossible given the energy required to keep any known aircraft in the sky for that long. These things would be out there all day, Graves recounted, still grappling with the implications of what he had seen. With the speeds we observed, 12 hours in the air is 11 hours longer than we'd expect. The strange encounters began in earnest after the Navy upgraded the radar systems on their FA-18 fighter jets. The new radar was more advanced, capable of picking up more detail and at greater distances than its predecessors. As one fighter jet after another received the upgrade, pilots began noticing the objects on their radars. Initially, many dismissed these as glitches, false radar tracks that often occur when new systems are introduced. But as the sightings continued and more pilots began reporting the same anomalies, it became clear that these were not mere technical errors. The objects were first observed high above the Atlantic from Virginia to Florida as the squadron trained for an upcoming deployment to the Persian Gulf. The descriptions of these objects were consistent. Some were described as spinning tops moving against the wind, others as spheres encasing cubes. They had no visible propulsion systems and emitted no infrared exhaust plumes, which would typically be expected from an aircraft operating at such speeds. Yet, despite the absence of these telltale signs, the objects could accelerate to hypersonic speeds, perform sudden stops, and execute maneuvers that seemed to defy the physical limits of human pilots. In late 2014, the situation took a serious turn when a near collision occurred. A Super Hornet pilot flying over the Atlantic had a close encounter with one of the objects. The incident was so alarming that an official aviation flight safety report was filed, a rare occurrence that underscored the growing concern within the squadron. The near miss, which happened during a routine training mission, left the pilot visibly shaken. He described the object as a sphere encasing a cube which zipped between his jet and his wingman's plane, missing both by a mere 100 feet. This close call was not an isolated event. As the weeks passed, the pilots found themselves encountering these objects with increasing frequency. Lieutenant Graves, along with his fellow pilots, began to realize that what they were witnessing was far beyond any known technology. The objects seemed to possess capabilities that no human-made aircraft had ever demonstrated. They could hover in place, accelerate instantaneously, and turn on a dime, all without any visible means of propulsion. One particularly unsettling aspect of these encounters was the fact that the objects seemed to be aware of the pilot's presence. On more than one occasion, the objects appeared to be actively avoiding the jets, changing direction or altitude as the pilots attempted to approach. This behavior suggested a level of intelligence or control that only deepened the mystery. Despite the growing evidence, the pilots were hesitant to speculate publicly about the nature of the objects. The military, too, was cautious in its response. No one in the Defense Department was ready to declare these objects as extraterrestrial, and experts emphasized that there could be earthly explanations for what the pilots were seeing, though none had yet been found. The Navy, however, took the matter seriously enough to issue new classified guidance on how to report what they referred to as unexplained aerial phenomena, or UAPs, a term that would later become synonymous with UFOs. The strange objects quickly became the focus of the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, a little-known initiative tasked with investigating reports of unidentified aerial phenomena. AATIP, which had been operating in secrecy since 2007, was initially funded at the request of then Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. The program had been studying UFO sightings for years, gathering radar data, video footage, and accounts from military personnel. The incidents reported by the Navy pilots became a key part of AATIP's investigations, adding to the growing body of evidence that something unusual was happening in the skies. Luis Elizondo, the military intelligence official who ran AATIP until his resignation in 2017, described the Navy pilots' encounters as a striking series of incidents. Elizondo, who has since become a vocal advocate for greater transparency around UFOs, believes that the objects represent a significant technological leap, one that could have profound implications for national security. However, he and others who worked on AATIP are quick to point out that many aspects of the program remain classified, and that much of what has been learned about these encounters is still shrouded in secrecy. The object's capabilities were so far beyond anything known that they challenged the very understanding of physics. Leon Golub, a senior astrophysicist at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, noted that while the possibility of an extraterrestrial origin was remote, the sightings could not be easily explained away. There are so many other possibilities, Golub said, suggesting that the phenomena could be the result of bugs in the radar software, atmospheric effects, or even neurological overload experienced by pilots during high-speed maneuvers. Yet, for the pilots who saw the objects firsthand, these explanations seemed inadequate. Lieutenant Danny Accoin, another member of the VFA-11 Red Rippers Squadron, had two direct encounters with objects. In the first, he detected an object on radar and set his plane to intercept it, flying just 1,000 feet below. Despite the radar lock, he could not see the object visually, even though his instruments told him it was there. A few days later, Accoin's infrared camera picked up another object which his training missile locked onto. "I knew I had it. I knew it was not a false hit," Accoin said, though he still couldn't see the object with his own eyes. As the incidents piled up, the Navy pilots grew increasingly concerned. They began to suspect that the objects were not part of any classified U.S. drone program. The idea that these were experimental drones seemed unlikely, given the danger they posed to the pilots and the lack of any acknowledgement from the government. Moreover, the object's flight characteristics, instant acceleration, sudden stops, and sharp turns, were beyond the capabilities of any known drone or aircraft. The sense of unease reached a peak when Lieutenant Graves encountered a fellow pilot returning from a mission with a look of shock on his face. The pilot had just had a close encounter with one of the objects and was visibly rattled. "I almost hit one of those things," the pilot told Graves. The incident so disturbed the squadron that it spurred a renewed effort to understand what these objects were. The Navy's new guidance on reporting UAPs was part of this effort. The guidance, which updated instructions first issued in 2015, reflected the seriousness with which the military was now treating these encounters. Joseph Gradisher, a Navy spokesman, acknowledged that while some sightings could be attributed to commercial drones, others remained unexplained due to a lack of data. "We don't know who's doing this," Gradisher said. "We don't have enough data to track this." But for the pilots who had witnessed them, the memories remained vivid, a reminder that not everything in the skies could be easily explained. The object's ability to perform seemingly impossible maneuvers raised questions about the limits of human technology and understanding. Lieutenant Graves, reflecting on the incidents, noted that while the Navy had helicopters that could hover and jets that could fly at high altitudes, the combination of these capabilities in a single vehicle without any visible means of propulsion was something entirely new. "We're here to do a job with excellence, not make up myths," Graves said, emphasizing that the pilots were focused on their mission, not on speculating about the object's origins. The mystery of the strange objects over the East Coast remains unsolved, a puzzle that continues to intrigue and baffle those who encountered it. For the Navy pilots who witnessed these events, the experience was both unsettling and awe-inspiring, a glimpse into a world that lies beyond the known, where the boundaries of technology and physics are pushed to their limits. The story of these encounters is a reminder that even in an age of advanced technology and scientific understanding, there are still mysteries in the skies that defy explanation. As the world continues to grapple with the implications of these sightings, the questions raised by the Navy pilots' experiences remain as relevant as ever. What were these objects? Where did they come from? And what do they mean for our understanding of the universe? Until more answers are found, the strange objects over the East Coast will remain one of the most compelling and enigmatic mysteries of modern aviation.